Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. This is where we share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is Rita Ainsworth and I'm joined today by Rita Ainsworth. Hey, Rita.
Hello, John.
So Rita is CEO at Data Driven Marketing, and she's a mindset coach for our instant course sales program. She's got over 10 years experience in marketing and in advertising. She used to work as director of media buying for a large Facebook ads agency. And she was running ads for online course businesses like Mind Valley and Amy Porterfield. And she made a lot of their internal processes there as well and kind of built up the whole system for them. So it all ran super smoothly. And today we're going to be talking about planning. Now, before we start learning from Rita about planning, I want to mention our sponsor. So today's sponsor is my company, Data Driven Marketing. And we've got a program called the Instant Course Sales Program. And it's designed for online course creators who have got a little bit of traffic. So they've got at least a few thousand visitors a month from somewhere. And they've got some courses and they want to make more money from it. And so what we do is we can help you implement 7 tactics in 8 weeks, which allow you to double your revenue. That's the average that we see from our clients as a double. Some people have tripled, some people it's gone up by 50%, but it's incredibly fast. And so if you're interested in that, just drop me an email, john@datadrivenmarketing.co, or come to our website, datadrivenmarketing.co, and there's a book a call option on there. You can just book in a call directly with me. All right. So, Rita, welcome to the show. We're going to talk today about planning. You excited?
I am. That's one of my favorite things.
Nice. Okay, cool. So let's dive into it. What are the most common mistakes that people make when they are planning?
There's a couple. I think one of them is trying to plan too much, kind of too far in advance.
Okay.
There's also not breaking the plan down into small actionable steps.
Okay.
Putting too much on your plate and hoping somehow that things gonna get done.
Yeah. When it didn't work any of the previous days, but maybe today hope is gonna work.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also not prioritizing.
Okay, cool. So let's dig into each of those then. So you said the first one was planning too far in advance. So what do you mean by that? How do you see that? How far in advance do people plan and what do you think is more realistic?
So I think people, it's good to have a vision, vision for your business or what direction you want to go. But there's no way in the world that you can plan out, a year's worth of work. What I see work well is I think the longest you could try and plan is a quarter.
Okay.
That's kind of what's working for most people. There's a bunch of books about it, how quarterly planning is way better than yearly, which, I totally agree. I think what we started doing recently is planning 8 weeks. I think it works way better than quarterly. I know it's only like a 4-week difference, but it does make a difference.
Well, it kind of is more, isn't it? Because what we're doing is like 6 weeks. We're reviewing, we're planning, and then we're planning 6 weeks, and then we're doing 6 weeks. What I found when we would do quarterly planning, and it's like the point that all books about quarterly planning make is a year is too long for a plan. Yeah. And it's totally true. But somehow those people have all landed on 3 months being the perfect amount of time. And it's kind of interesting. It's like, is it perfect or is it just kind of convenient because that kind of existed already? And I think it's way too long because what we'd find is by the end of the quarter, I'd be like, this plan doesn't quite make sense anymore. We're on the right track. Everyone's like slightly drifted from where we were going. We're like, we'd review at the end of the quarter, go like, yeah, that's where we were 3 months ago. God, that seems like a long time, doesn't it? So you think kind of 6 to 8 weeks is like a realistic amount in advance to plan?
Yeah, that's when everyone's got, as you say, everyone's got energy. You see how what you planned out is kind of the results. You can figure out that some things actually doesn't make sense anymore. I think people went with quarterlies kind of like seasons. It's already, matching. And it's easy. I don't know. But I was like, okay, let's do quarterly. The program is due sprints of a couple of weeks, and it's for normal businesses, it's way too short. But anything up to a quarter is way better than anything long term.
Yeah. Yeah. So somewhere 3 months or less, we think about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is actually based on a system from the guys over at Basecamp, that project management software. I think they wrote a book about it it might be called Shape Up, but I'm not 100% if that's the right book. I might be getting mixed up. They've done a few now.
That's might be fitness one.
Yeah. Yeah, they also wrote a book about how they use their project management system for fitness. Yeah. Okay, cool. So planning too far in advance. Anything more about that people should know?
It's okay to set milestones, but don't make a detailed plan for more than probably a week or two. Because there's that quote that says, no plan for your life will survive the first contact with reality. And that's pretty much true with anything, life or business. So
there's that one from Mike Tyson, isn't there? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. So set milestones and then work backwards and plan a week in advance, like a detailed plan. That's plenty.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like I used to do planning things out, like a whole project, plan the whole thing out. And then halfway through the project, I find I've got all these tasks that don't make sense anymore, aren't needed, but they're still in there. And I've got to go through and actually delete them now rather than not have added them in the first place. And yeah, so, okay, cool. So plan out like the projects 6 to 8 weeks in advance, and then the like individual tasks 1 or most 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, max.
All right, cool.
Like when I was working for the Facebook ad agency, I didn't do more than a week's planning. I would, to start with, we used to do these monthly plans to keep clients happy, comfortable that we had a plan. And partway through, like 2 weeks in, it's just completely changed. And there's no point even planning, because by planning, you waste time. Then you have to think, oh, am I sticking to this plan? Kind of feels wrong once you planned it out not to follow it, and then that's wrong. There's a bunch of problems that come up from planning too much as well.
Interesting. And there's probably some of this probably depends on what kind of role you're doing, doesn't it? I wonder about, like, for some of the course creators, when they're actually creating courses, maybe it's different. I don't know. Maybe you plan that out a couple of months of how long it's going to take you to make the course or something. I bet you, though, if you broke that down into the details, you still wouldn't be worth planning out more than a week or two in advance in terms of the details for it.
No, I was helping putting together a course for the Facebook ad agency. And it was useful to have to plan out structure. Like, okay, what's the kind of the backbone of this? What chapters we're going to have, the topics, what's then kind of maybe roughly going to go in there. And then after that, you can just plan in like week at a time and say, okay, I'll record this content. I'll put this content here from what we already have. 1 week at a time is plenty. It can be a bit overwhelming if it kind of becomes this huge task. Kind of you still hold everything you planned out in your head, and you can't focus on what you have in front of you, because you're thinking, what else I'll have to do in a month's time.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that was the first one, about planning too far in advance. That's an issue people will make mistakes with. All right. What was the second one? Second one was one task that's really like a bunch of different tasks.
Yeah, it's when you have something, just you say, oh, it's just this one thing I need to do. But if you put this under, microscope, it becomes 10 tasks. Something I did the other day was setting up lead gen campaigns, and I had one task. When I looked at it, it was 11.
Yeah.
Or even more if I only put 11 for things that kind of didn't make, I wasn't, doing intuitively.
Yeah.
So it probably was like about 15, 20 tasks under that one heading, and it can be overwhelming because you don't know, it feels uncomfortable. It's like, I kind of know what to do, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And as soon as you break that down and you put dates under them, and you kind of know how long it'll take to do each of them, you can say, okay, Wednesday morning, I have 2 hours for this. I'll do it then. instead of thinking, oh, I think maybe I'll just take 30 minutes and I'll slot into this space here, and then you have to stop partway through, and then you have to come back to it, remember what you were doing, kind of bring all this back into your head. It's time consuming. It's not very energy efficient.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've definitely had that before, where you think something is simple and then you break it down and you're like, oh my God, there's so much there. And I either have to set out more time for doing it, or I have to break it into like, okay, I'm going to do a bit of it on Monday, a bit of it on Tuesday, whenever I can fit those in. And I've also had it where I think it's almost that I haven't realized why the task is difficult. I look at it and I think, well, I should be able to do this. And then when I actually break it down, I'm like, well, no wonder this seemed difficult, because it's difficult. Like it's actually all these different bits, or I need to put something together and send it off to somebody else first before. And all of those parts, like what order does it get done in? I mean, I find that with planning, it's unbelievably important. What order do the tasks get done in? Because some things have to get done before, especially if somebody else is involved. It's like, right, I've got to write the brief for this, and then I've got to send it to a designer, and then it's got to come back, and we've got to give feedback from this person. And if you just have create page and you don't realize that all of those bits need doing in an interesting and varied order, and that, it all has to fit together neatly, then it could be so frustrating. Or you do something too early in the process, and then it has to get undone and redone because somebody else needs to give feedback on whatever, Okay, cool. I'm with you on that one. That makes sense. All right, so we've got 2 so far. So is the planning too far in advance, and 1 task that's really like 11 tasks or 15 or whatever. And the third one was planning in too much. Can you talk us through about that?
Yeah, it's it kind of when you don't break tasks down into smaller subtasks, you think you only have 2 things to do for the day, but you actually have maybe 20 things to do. And so that's kind of being more detailed and specific helps with the unrealistic expectations, what can be done. And other thing I've seen people, even knowing that, people still have this hope strategy that they're gonna put as many things as they think have to be done and hope that they somehow gonna do it. And it never works. It never works.
I think I did that today. I need to go back through my list again after this.
Yeah, it never works. It's one, you miss the most important tasks that had to be done in that, chaos and noise.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel bad at the end of the day and, give yourself hard time. And then that doesn't help with being realistic. You'll just say, oh, why couldn't I just do this? And other thing is that things will take slower. You either work on, you have 1 project or 10 projects that take a week. So if you do 1 at a time, you will see, okay, you will finish one project, and after a week you'll see results. You'll finish second project, you'll see results. If you're doing 10 at the same time, you're only going to see result after 10 weeks. And that's discouraging. It's, slows progress. So it feels kind of counterproductive to work on less things, but it's counterintuitive, sorry. But it is more productive to work on less things and finish them quicker.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that thing that you're saying about it being discouraging at the end of the day, it's really interesting. It's like the process of cutting tasks off the list at the start of the day, I find one of the most emotionally uncomfortable things to do. Like if I'm tired, not just that I can't think as clearly, but if I'm feeling like a bit less positive and full of pep, and I have to take stuff off the list, I'm like, but they all need doing. I can't possibly take anything off the list. And it's like, yeah, but you also can't possibly do them all. So you're going to have to make a choice here, Buster,
Yeah, I've coached quite a few entrepreneurs, and I think it's normal for everyone, but it's people feel like they failed. If you have a to-do list and you worked on things, but they weren't the most important things on your list that gonna move your business forward, you feel like, okay, I failed. And every single day, if you feel like you failed, it becomes harder and harder and less motivating to run that business. So something simple or like, okay, don't put too many tasks on your list. Long term can really affect you.
And the last one you mentioned, I guess, ties into that as well, which is about prioritizing.
Yeah. Prioritizing kind of like what you're going to work on, what's the biggest lever for you for today. People are drawn to things that are easy, comfortable. What can I just tick off? Let me just tick off these things.
Yeah.
And then by the time
the list just got shorter. I just spent 20 minutes doing really unimportant stuff and the list got shorter. It feels good. It feels
good. Very good because you feel like, I've done something.
I'm so productive. Look at me. Dopamine. The list I got to hit tick. I got a dopamine hit. Yeah.
And it's just, you have to sit through that discomfort and see, okay, what does actually need doing today? And probably something that is most uncomfortable, like most difficult, sitting through that and identifying, okay, this is definitely the task that is like, if I get that one thing done, but nothing else, I can feel good about my day. And I know that my business is improving.
Yeah. There's a quote from Tim Ferriss, something like, whatever you most uncomfortable about doing is probably what you need to do the most. Something along those kind of lines. It's like, okay, all right, put on your big boy pants and suck it up. All right, cool. So what gets in the way? So let's say someone knows all of those rules and then sometimes still doesn't follow them. What is it? What's getting in the way for people?
Something as simple as energy. Mm-hmm. Energy levels. How good was your sleep? And have you had enough water? And have you had enough breaks? A lot of people kind of know that what's their peak time of the day when they can get most things done, or best thinking time. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, it's first thing in the morning, and then kind of an early afternoon, those peaks, and then just book in time to do your most important tasks then, when you can think the clearest, then do that work in probably about 1.5 to 2 hour blocks. Don't think I've met anyone who can do more than 2 hours of really productive work. And then after that, take break, tick off these simple, easy things, have a bit of dopamine that probably you won't need because you already done the most important thing.
Oh, you can just go through the whole day being smug after that, can't you? Because you've got the most important thing done. So me and Tony, who I was at university with, and we would go swimming in the morning twice a week. Tony would always still be in bed when I got to his house at 6 a.m. So I'd get up at like 5:30. I'd get around to his for 6. He was on the ground floor. I'd knock on his window and he'd be lying there hoping that I wouldn't come. And he'd see me, he'd get out of bed. He'd got his bag ready the night before and it'd be like up in 2 minutes and out the door. But he's like, oh, I was hoping you won't come because it's so warm in the bed. But then we'd go swimming at 6 and then we'd have, I forget what time exactly it was, but something like that. And we would see other people coming in afterwards to go to lectures. And we'd already done like a mile swim in the morning. And oh my God, were we smug for the rest of the day. Like unbearable. It felt great. It's like, yeah, we already did this before you were even up. And then we went to a 9 o'clock lecture and you were still in bed then. We have won the day. So I get what you mean about that. If you can get that really good stuff in early, then you might not need that other little stuff later because you're kind of on a roll now. You're crushing it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what's some of the other things then that get in people's way?
Distractions. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many distractions at the moment. I always tell the team, don't have any notifications on your computer. Don't have anything that pings. It shouldn't be pinging.
Anything that pings, make it stop pinging and move it away.
Yeah, it's it's Slack and this email and there's like there's pings, there's things popping on your screen. It's just stop it. Like, turn everything off. Like especially when you're doing that deep work, you don't need that stuff. you don't need it any day of the week, really. It's like, we're not emergency workers.
Yeah, how urgent is that thing that went ping?
Yeah, exactly. It just distracts, and it's even if you don't look at it, if you're still working on where you're working, you know that it's pinged. So it will distract you even without you realizing it.
They did a study once with people who were just a control group who were just working on whatever they're doing. And then they had another group who were getting notifications. And then the third group who got stoned. And the ones who got stoned, like obviously the ones who just were completely control group, had no notifications and no reefer, were the ones who got the most done. But then second was the stoned ones. And the ones with the notifications on actually got the least done out of all of them. Because it's terrible for you to have like, oh, now you've got I see it with people. Like I'll be on a call with them and their notification pops up from Slack.
They're gone, like they glazed over.
And you just see them kind of going like, and they're still talking slowly as if, but you're like, no, I know that you're not there. Do you think I'm an idiot? Turn it off. Yeah. I've got an advantage here because I'm so distractible, unbelievably distractible by everything, that I had to turn it off to have any chance. And then that's actually put me ahead of everybody else, because it's just like, now I got no notifications for email. My emails all go into this other folder where I can't even see them, even if I go into my email app. Slack, I quit it as soon as I've written something. Before we did this episode, I went into Slack to post something. And instantly was like, oh, look, there's a message from so-and-so. She's like, what are you like? So I'm like, because I know I've got that, I try and do these things in just these one go at a time, and each thing, and have everything else turned off. All right, cool. So energy levels and distractions. Let's say we've turned off all the notifications. We've worked on stuff first thing in the morning. We've planned everything far in advance. We've broken everything down. What else have we got in terms of what else gets in the way?
It's being, as I think mentioned, that being uncomfortable of just sitting down and saying, okay, I don't know how to do this task, or it will take me a while to make it really good. It's I think what's really important is noticing those. People are not good with emotions, but it's like there's always an emotion when there's discomfort. It's like sitting with that and saying, okay, I feel uncomfortable and it's okay. Let me sit with this for a little bit and don't go and check anything, and do some breathing, and starting with what you know, like a shitty first draft. That's, I think, is the best strategy to get into that deep work. And saying, okay, I will start with what I know, and then as soon as you get started, your brain kicks in, and then all that crap that you were telling yourself about why you can't do this goes away, and then you start doing it and making second and third and whatever draft that you need, and it becomes something that you actually wanted to end up with. So it's okay, let's sit with this for a little while. Let's not get distracted. Let's accept that it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable for everyone, and it's okay. And let's just do what we can do to start with.
I learned something really interesting about this like a couple of weeks ago from Cal Newport. So you mentioned about deep work, and that's like his term, right? He wrote the book Deep Work, and what he said in this article was, when you're doing deep work, so deep work as a concept is like, it's the stuff that is, you have to do a whole load of it in one go. You probably got a few hours on one thing, or ideally like maybe even a whole day working on this thing, with breaks and whatever, but you've got some big juicy topic that you're getting into. And he said at some point in there, it's going to get really uncomfortable, and it's going to feel like, oh, I need to go and whatever, check my email or Slack or what have you. But if you do that, you take your attention away and you lose loads of the good work that you've done, getting all these ideas together in your head. And there's this point where you've got all these ideas coming together in your head, and then you sit with it and you wait and you just accept that it's uncomfortable. You're probably about to have a breakthrough with it. But if you give in and you go check your email or Slack or Facebook or whatever, that's it. You're going to have to take a long while to get back to that stage again. And that was super fascinating for me because I'd had that happen before and been like, oh, I've been working on this thing for an hour and a half. It's fine. I'll go do something else. I'll check Facebook for a bit. And instead, this time I was like, well, I might take a break, but I'll just take a break and go for a walk. And then partway through the walk, I'd be like, oh, I figured out the answer. And then I come back and I could do it. And it's just like, wow, that was so good. It was so good. And it was just all about that being okay with being uncomfortable. It's like, it's all right to be uncomfortable. That's okay. You'll cope. It's not a problem. All right. So let's say we've got all of that stuff figured out, right? We've managed to man up, be uncomfortable. We've dealt with our distractions. We've got good energy levels. We've got all the planning done properly. Could you talk us through like some more practical steps for this? Like, how do we actually do this at Data-Driven Marketing? What are we doing for ourselves? What are the stages?
So what we do internally, and I think we mentioned already, is we do 8-week cycles. So 6 weeks is actual work. We plan out 6 weeks worth of initiatives. And then we have 1 week review saying what worked, what didn't work. And then the next week is planning another 6 weeks of work. Mm-hmm. And that review and planning process, I think it's so crucial because it's like, we already do for personal stuff, we do daily reviews and weekly reviews. We wouldn't do that as a team. It's too time consuming, but having at least every 6 weeks reviewing, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what can we change? It's easy to forget kind of, what happened and why. So without that review process, writing it down, looking at the numbers, looking at the data, it's impossible to improve. Well, it's very difficult. It takes way, way longer.
One of the things when we used to do quarterly planning, what I've realized was we would have a quarter's worth of work, and somewhere in the quarter, we would be doing reviewing and we'd be doing planning. But it wasn't agreed that it was 2.5 months of work and then stop and then review and then plan. It was like 3 months of work. And in 2 of those weeks, you've also got to review and plan.
Yeah.
I was just like, it was difficult every time. And it took until we changed the system to the new one for me to go, oh, that was dumb, wasn't it? Because you have that same problem, but you only have it every 3 months. So it's hard to kind of notice the pattern in there. So that's been huge. And I still think I'm not good enough at us like actually stopping for the review week and the plan week in terms of like, it doesn't mean stop the business, but stopping working on the initiatives, because it's like, but I want to get everything done. But it has been excellent. It's been really good having that kind of a process to it.
Yeah. And then making sure that we do not plan in too many initiatives
Still working on that. Yeah.
Still working on that. Yeah. It's ideally, it shouldn't be more than 1, maybe 2 initiatives per person. Because otherwise we'll end up, end of 6 weeks, everything like, plates are spinning, but, there's nothing done. There's no result to show what we worked on. It's
like you were saying earlier about planning 1 week or so in advance and about planning the days. It's the same thing for the initiative, for the cycle, isn't it? If you've got too many things and they don't get finished, it's depressing.
Yeah.
And they might not get done because you've got more than you can fit in and everything's partly done. Well, then that hasn't actually moved you forwards, really. Okay.
Yeah. So for our review process, we have each of us have a Google Doc, and we look at what initiative we worked on, what was the goal, what we achieved, what worked, what didn't work, what are we carrying over to the next cycle, what are we ditching that just didn't pan out the way we thought it will. And then the following week we have a planning. So what did we carry over from the previous cycle, and what are the new initiatives that we're going to add in? And then after that, once we have that high level overview, as I said, we then put stuff into project management system. We say, okay, let's plan in weeks of work. Then look at it at like we have our weekly team meetings, talk it through, check where we're at. does anything need changing partway through? Because sometimes even if like 6 weeks, you still realize that after 3 weeks, it's like, nah, it's not worth continuing. Let's look at this and change the course. And what works also really well for kind of keeping on track daily is the daily huddles.
Mm-hmm.
We meet.
They're great, aren't they? I love them. We brought it in. I can't remember if it was from you or our friend Vic who suggested about them. And obviously I'd heard of daily huddles because they talk about them in Scrum from that developers project management system. And then we started doing them. I was like, this is genius. That's so good. Everybody gets to check in once a day. Did you do all of the things from yesterday? And then what's your top 3 things for today? And everybody wants to have 5 top things.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, 3. What I want to know is what's your top 3 for the day? And then the next day, did they all get done? And if there's a consecutive row of days where one of the top 3 things didn't get done, we need to look at that.
Yeah.
But it's like, choose, what do you think of the top 3? And then make sure you get them done. And it's just like, you're probably going to have a good day every day. And it's amazing. And it shows me as like the business owner, like, where are we up to? What's everybody working on? Which is amazing as well. I stopped going on them for a while. I was like, oh, I don't need to be on there. Other people go. And I was like, that was a terrible idea.
I think
I was thinking.
Yeah, it's great that we have, okay, there's, it's a spreadsheet, obviously. And if it's done, it's green. And if it's not done, it's red. And it's like, I don't want to put anything in red. So I don't want to go on the huddle tomorrow and see the team to see that I didn't do something. It's like, like, yes, stuff gonna come up and you'll have to deal with some urgent things, but it's not gonna happen day after day. It'll be embarrassing.
Yeah, there's something about that embarrassment that is much more powerful than motivation sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the accountability. It's harder to be accountable just to yourself, but as soon as you have a team member, like, it's so much easier. I think that's why, as a coach, I see it's not just what you talk through in the coaching that helps. It's people know that they already know what they need to do. It's they know they're gonna see me in the next week, and they will feel like idiots if they don't do it.
I had the same thing. I used to do. I had some habits I was trying to change, and I would have a daily journal, and I would write down at the end of the day how I did with that habit. And I could, even though I knew it was important, I could manage to not do it every day. But what I couldn't do is write down 3 days in a row that I didn't do it. I felt like an idiot. Yeah. I was just like, so by day 4, I was like, I guess I'm doing that bloody thing. And I would do it. And it's just like, this is amazing. And it's just being accountable to myself. It's like, I could kind of ignore it, but I couldn't write it down 4 times. I was like, it's not happening. I'm not doing that. Whatever the pain is, it can't be as bad as this. It's awful.
Yeah.
All right. What about, so we're going to talk through the whole process. How do you take it from the 8-week planning right down to the daily huddle? And by the way, those daily huddles for us last what, like, it's maybe 15 minutes, but that's including jokes and stories.
Yeah,
as well.
15 minutes with like a laugh and what you've been up to. And yeah, it's how many of us on that call? Sometimes 4 or 5?
Most 6, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, doesn't take more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, for definite. So what's any tools or processes that could be useful for people in terms of implementing this?
Project management software, anything, Asana, Trello, Todoist, Basecamp, any of them will do.
They all work.
They're all work.
Good.
Yeah, it depends, how complex or how simple you want. And I've used all 4, and I remember hating Asana for a long while, and now I love it. And yeah, they're all good. It's just, I think people try to do planning in Notion, and that's not the tool for it, because you can't add dates there, or you can't add person. You can just write out, it's like a notebook. You want to have something that you can add a name and a date to it, and then see all of your tasks for the day.
Yeah, projects, tasks, names, dates.
Yeah.
Comments is good within the task. After that, it's all whatever you like. I see people sometimes switch between different bits of software, being like, oh, no, you don't understand. I thought that this was the one, but the next one, that's the one, and then move everything over. And it's like, oh my goodness, what a waste. Just anything will do. We use Todoist because it's the simplest that I could find. It just has projects and tasks and comments and people and dates. It doesn't have anything else. There's no other features to it. And I really like that. It was just so simple.
And unless you are running a company that is like, in the previous agency, we were using Trello for a while. And then as the team grew, like we grew from, 15 people to 40, there was an issue between the creative team's tasks and the media buying team's tasks. And Trello became a bit too kind of simplistic. So we moved over to Asana. It only, as you grow as a company, like anything up to probably 20 people, I don't think it matters what you use.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of that. Hopefully people will now be planning badasses and they will be able to up their game on this one. If you found the interview useful, then give us a review wherever you listen to it. Hit the like button if there is one, if you like it, and subscribe if you want to get more of these episodes. What I would suggest is come join us in the Advanced Course Creators group on Facebook. And in there, we're sharing tips and tactics and strategies, and we have training videos, and people are asking questions. We're in there every day answering them. So that's a great place to be. And we share all these videos early in there as well. So if you're not already in the group, come join us in there. That's the Advanced Course Creators group on Facebook. So thanks, everybody. Till next time. And thank you, Rita.
Thank you.